Welcome to Planet 412. Um, so I am having a little issue here. So guys, excuse me for 1 second as I get this. I have myself here, as you see, and I don't know what came up here tonight. So we are going back out, and I'll be right back, guys. All right, I'm back. So normally we would start the show with the intro. Something happened with StreamYard that, as you could see, there were two of me, and I could not put my final intro in there. So I apologize, but it'll be a funny live stream for everybody to see as they watch it, because normally I don't have a gaff like this. Tonight, we're going to have a couple guests. We're going to have, as you saw on the description, David Wolf from ETS Exposing the Strange. But we're also going to have another friend of mine coming here soon that I'm really excited to introduce. So when he pops up there in the green room, I'll have him on. So I just wanted to say hi to everybody here in the comments. Uh, you're right, Scott. We are used to the unusual. Definitely here on Planet 412. My friends and wife are going to laugh their asses off when they see the beginning of the show tonight. Definitely not something that normally occurs, but whatever StreamYard's up to, they were playing games with me. Hello to Stefan, Scott, Giggles, Tim, everybody else that is here in the chat. I just wanted to say hello to you as well. A lot coming up here with Planet 412. Six different interviews that I'm going to be recording starting tomorrow for the 412. People from around the world. You guys are going to get to see some really incredible experiences. I'm super excited for you guys to get to see these interviews. Hello, Lee. Home from Pittsburgh, Steeler fan right here. As well, we have three different new videos coming up here in the next week as well. So, a lot of exciting things for Planet 412. And I see that my good friend Christopher Garitano is here. How you doing, Chris? Uh, I don't hear you, buddy. Let me see. Let me see if he is. It's on. I'm not hearing you, Chris. Um, he's going to back out and come back in. You guys can hear me, correct? Let me know in the chat. Are you guys hearing me in the chat? Could you guys let me know? Christopher,
Yes, can you hear me now?
gotcha.
Okay, great.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. Welcome, everybody. I'm sure you know who Christopher Garitano is, director, producer of a lot of great stuff, Strange World, and all kinds of other things. He has a extremely big documentary coming up at Halloween time. Chris, if you want to let everybody know what's on the menu for this year.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's the debut of my new series. Each episode's going to be about two. They're all 2-hour specials, so I made two of them over the last couple of years or so to prepare for this because I turned down some network opportunities to make another series. Like I had a series called Strange World. I made a 2-hour special for History Channel called The Dark Files, and before that, I made a 2-hour documentary like that called Montauk Chronicles.
Montauk,
But
fabulous.
this new one is I wanted to be in full creative control over it. I wanted to own it at the end of the day and also decide where it was going to be shown in terms of network possibilities, streaming possibilities, screenings. So now I own the situation. I'm in full control over it, creative control, logistical control. And it's the best show I've ever made, the best thing I've ever made. And the first episode is called A Haunting We Will Go. Now, immediately, what might come to mind is people with night vision cameras running around a allegedly haunted location, but that's not what this is. And I think it's going to be a very fresh change for people that have had that type of thing, that style, shown to them for 20 years or so. And I think it's getting tired. And I think people are just trying to meet the supply for the demand, meaning whether the location's haunted or not, they're just going in to fake that it is. Because trust me, I made television. I know what they're doing. And just to meet a demand for another episode or another season. Well, I care too much about what I'm making. I care too much about the audience because I am the audience. And there's so much more to say about these subjects that haven't been said in 20 years that I've really spent time meditating on what this needs to be. This is my dream series. So it begins this fall, and a trailer for the second 2-hour special, which is a completely different topic, but in the realm of the arcane and supernatural, will be also shown along with the debut of the first episode.
That's going to be absolutely exciting and incredible when it comes out. Something a lot of us have been waiting for from you, Chris, for a long time. I've known about it. I've been lucky enough to know you've been working on this for quite a while. So I've been stoked about this project, but so many people are just absolutely pumped for this new series to come out.
Yeah, and the greatest thing is that in this, the world's changed so much in terms of the way these shows can be distributed in the last 5 years since my series was on Discovery and Travel Channel. And that was an official series. It wasn't something I made on my own and then sold to them. They paid for it. I was hired, I was greenlit. But this is different. We're in a different world now. And so I've taken that into consideration throughout the process of this. And, my goal is to reach the world. Now, my other shows have been shown around the world, but I am directly already speaking to networks in other territories that I have a good rapport with. And it's really about reaching them with these stories and these ideas, because when we see these things, like I did when I was a kid, and I absorbed these things, and I do discuss that a little bit in the first episode, is that the reason why I'm doing this is because this stuff knocked me out as a kid. Ghost stories knocked me out, stories of the paranormal, the supernatural. I was completely captivated, just like many of you. And I needed to tap back into that magic because the magic is lost in a lot of this stuff, because it's always about meeting the supply for the demand. And some YouTube shows are really great, like this one and a few others that I know of. A lot of them are just trying to meet a supply for the demand at the end of the week. So it ends up that people are now making things up to just meet that thing. And I will never do that. There's some great stuff in my new show, stuff to consider, definitely. But we do it in a different way, and a way that I would want to see on television, because I love these things. I've loved it since I was a child. And I've had my own experiences too. And it should be treated that way. People talk about making progress and learning and teaching on a lot of this stuff. And it's like, well, what are you teaching them? What are we learning? And I think you need to open your mind to the fact that there have been some great minds that have opened the doorway to try and understand a lot of this stuff. But some of the greatest of it all are the mysteries that have yet to be explored. And some of them are right under our noses in a lot of cases. And we just ignore them for, I'm not exactly sure what a lot of people are doing. So I needed to step up and make sure that, even though I had a lot of creative control over my last series, I really needed full control to pull this off. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
So that's right. I took the risk. I made the investment myself, and I'm excited. It's, there's people around me that never heard me talk like this. Like I don't walk around saying this is the best thing I've ever made. Like I don't use the P word, proud. I never talk like that. But this is something that I know we pulled it off. We really did it, and we carefully worked on it, thought about it, researched, wrote, spent time at locations, really talked to people, and never thought about, let's rush this out to get it out. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, you're doing a great job. Again, like I said, super excited. I'm going to bring in my buddy David Wolf here as well. He is joining us with the show. Chris, I don't think you and David have met before.
I haven't. Hey, David.
How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing very well.
David has a channel called Exposing the Strange, as well as he makes documentaries himself. And so you guys actually have some things in common. I'm excited that the two of you are on here tonight. We have some exciting things that we're going to be talking about. But David, thank you for getting here, brother. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I just I was in a rush. My son's learning how to drive, so after work,
oh God,
around, and that's kind of scary. I gotta be honest with you, but he's doing it, and so I was a little late getting on. I apologize.
Oh, of course. No, Christopher's here, and I'm excited to have the two of you here because I respect both of your opinions very much. And what we're going to be discussing tonight, as was in the title of the show, we have disappearances that have occurred around the world. Chris, I know you're very familiar with these things. So the first thing I wanted to get into was Dyatlov'S Pass in Russia. I'm sure you're familiar with it. And, what occurred there was something that to this day, no one really knows the explanation except for the government in Russia. And, they're not the type that will release information around the world. So I wanted to real quick explain to everybody here about Dyatlov'S Pass, one of the most terrifying mysteries throughout the world. So basically, in 1959, 9 skilled hikers set out into the Ural Mountains. They never returned. The bodies were discovered weeks later, mutilated, half-dressed, and scattered across the snow. What happened to them remains to be one of the most chilling, unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. And they have footage and pictures of, what they were doing. They were just going on a skiing trip throughout these very harsh mountains in Russia. And something occurred unknown, most think paranormally touched in some form or fashion. And these poor people all died horrible deaths, but very strange accounts. They were in their tent that was being heated. They made all types of cuts in the sides of the tent as if they were looking outside at something. They also had at one point cut a very large hole, and all of them exited the tent and left the tent without boots, clothes, whatever was going on, horrified them all enough to go out into Arctic temperatures where they all would eventually meet their ends. And like I said, horrible forms and fashions. You guys, I'm going to say again, I'm pretty sure I would assume about what happened. First of all, I want to ask you guys, do you believe that these were types of events that occurred and caused their deaths that were paranormally connected, militarily connected, like some people think maybe the military was testing rockets or some new type of sound device that might have caused, infrasound to have these people have these thoughts to leave their tent. Or some people thought that possibly there was a Yeti that might have even killed all of these people. Christopher, your thoughts first.
Well, I've read some about this, and then of course I was heavily looking at missing cases, interviewed a ton of witnesses, and went to locations, mostly in Mount Shasta area. But the first missing case scenario that I looked into several times over was the Montauk Project, because there was kids that were missing.
Mm-hmm.
Allegedly 100,000 kids over the course of 13 years. So hearing all of this, and I've read about this story before, and I've heard some of the claims before. one of the last things I read about this was that it was deemed sort of a rock slide or an avalanche that knocked everybody out of the tent at the end of the
They
day.
thought it possibly could have, but not to cut you off there, Chris. They did have a scientist who was a expert on these types of events, and he said there were no signs of an actual, slide of any type that occurred because of the
May I
types of.
ask what year this happened? Part one. The second question would be, what year did this scientist look at the situation? Was it shortly after, and then, or was it recent, looking at any available information?
Yeah.
And the third
So
question would
go
be,
ahead.
so for what reason? I would have to ask each category that you mentioned. I would want to know, well, why would someone think that? And again,
Mhm.
I'm somebody who has had some odd things happen to me personally, so I'm not dismissing anything supernatural, but for us to, you need to cautiously approach these things for us to take this seriously
Mhm.
and to ever find out the truth anyway. So those are the questions I have right now, because I can't say, hey man, it was a Yeti, I just know it, or it
For
was a
sure, for sure. This
werewolf.
this occurred in 1959. In
Okay.
2020, the Russian report came out that the government had said they believed that it was an avalanche, although it was met with much skepticism. In 2021, a simulation was proven that supposedly an avalanche was possible, a slab avalanche, but a scientist also in the same year who was an expert, I had witnessed on a documentary just recently, and he had said that there were no signs physically from the physical damage and injuries that they had sustained from any type of avalanche, including a slab avalanche.
So my next question would be, what was evident in the injuries?
Okay, so and David, before I get going, did you want to give your quick opinion on what you thought occurred here?
Well, the problem with the slab avalanche is that they that I think when they found the tents, they weren't, first of all, they weren't covered in snow.
Hmm.
And the slab avalanche theory was because I think they dug out the snow to put their tents in, as kind of to keep it secure against the wind. And they said that the slopes, I think you need at least a 30-degree slope to have a slab avalanche, and that slope was only about 15, maybe 20 degrees. So yeah, I don't believe in the slab avalanche theory. Um, Personally, I think with everything said and done, I think it was more of a military testing of acoustical weapons, like real low frequency weapons that may have kind of shocked them and pushed them out.
Were
So
they testing those weapons at that time? Do we have like any evidence to, and again, this isn't rhetorical. I'm honestly asking, like, do we know that they were testing those weapons
yeah,
perhaps at that particular time?
I believe so, because you're in the Cold War in 1959, and the U.S. used a lot of in World War II. The U.S. used a lot of acoustical um, technology to try to thwart the Germans, and
Yeah, but was there a base not far from where they were camping out that may have been testing those weapons?
well, what they did see. I know there's I think there was a base. Wasn't there? They discovered a lot of radiological.
Yeah, they did. They had
That,
radiation that they had found
yeah.
with Geiger counters at the site. There was a military base, I believe, within 100 miles of where this occurred. And then what also I wanted to throw in there for the avalanche theory, where they had put their tent, made no sense to anyone because it was away from the tree cover, where normally in Arctic weather with high winds, you would set it inside of the tree cover to protect the tent from it. They set it out way in the middle of a flat land that was not near enough of any cliffs where they could have had damage from said avalanche. And it made everyone question, why would they have put this in such a space, which gave them also the impression with all of the slits on all of the sides, why they had thought the theory of them looking through around them to see what was around them. A detailed breakdown of the injuries sustained by each of the 9 hikers in the Dyatlov Pass incident, based on official Soviet autopsies and later identifications and investigations. The injuries are part of what makes the cause so mysterious. Many were extremely severe, but lacked external wounds, and some had no clear cause at all. And one of the other things that this scientist talked about, when you have people and bodies that are found in avalanches, you see a lot of damage from the snow, like severe brush burns from the snow and such. They had none of those were apparent on any of the bodies. Igor Dyatlov, the leader, 23, who this was named after, his cause of death was hypothermia. Minor abrasions and bruises on the knuckles were the only signs in a possible struggle. They found blood around his mouth and nose, abrasions on only his ankles from crawling, and his clothing was light clothing, missing his shoes. Zainida Komlogrova, cause of death was hypothermia, multiple bruises on face and body, frostbitten fingers, large bruise on the right side of her torso, only wearing a light shirt, sweater, no hat or gloves or shoes. Rustam Slobodin, cause of death hypothermia, fractured skull, 5 to 6 centimeters, linear fracture, bruises on forehead, knuckles, and limbs. Possibly fell repeatedly or was struck. Better dressed than most, wearing one boot. Yuri Doroshenko, cause of death hypothermia, burns on legs and side of head, bruised lips and swollen upper lip, body froth on mouth suggest internal bleeding. Abrasions on bruises and arms and shoulders underneath clothes, barefoot, shirtless, and underwear found under cedar tree. Yuri, excuse the family, I'm sorry, Krivonoshenka, hypothermia, 3rd-degree burns on leg and hand, blood in mouth and nose, bitten off part of his own knuckle, possibly from pain or terror. Clothing barefoot, stripped to underwear, found near a fire under the cedar tree. With Doroshenko, they had stuck their feet in the fire because they were so cold. Alexander Kolatov, cause of death hypothermia, nose broken or deformed, neck had an odd twist, suggested violence, eye damage, facial disfigurement, better dressed, others found in ravine. Nikolai Thibodeau Brignole's cause of death, fatal skull fracture, massive trauma, cracked skull with internal bleeding, no external wounds or match of first force of injury, caused considered incompatible with life. Clothing wearing jacket, sweater found in ravine. Lyodumila Dubinya, cause of death, major internal trauma, missing tongue, eyes, and part of lips, broken ribs on both sides, damage to internal organs, massive internal bleeding, no external wounds matched internal injuries, wearing hiker's clothes. And I believe this is the last one. And they had said it seemed like something like being hit by a car or something with extreme massive strength squeezed her and broke all of the ribs and caused massive internal bleeding. The last one, Semyon Zolotaryov, major chest trauma, crushed ribs, broken on one side, one lung damage. This was another one they said seemed like he was hit by a car or truck. No external trauma or bruising. Eyes missing. Fully dressed, wearing 2 watches, found in ravine. What makes injuries so strange? Severe internal trauma without external damage. Doctors said the trauma was comparable to a car crash, but no external bruises or soft tissue trauma. Missing eyes, tongue, and facial tissue usually attributed to natural post-mortem decay, but in Dubidna's case, there was bleeding suggesting she was alive or recently alive when it happened. Clothes swapped between bodies, and radioactivity found. Traces of radioactive contamination found on Dubidna and Zolotaryov's clothes. No explanation officially given. Some bodies looked carefully positioned, clothing undressed in a way inconsistent with simple hypothermia. And the government had given an explanation when it first occurred. Unknown force caused these bodies and people to be killed with such damage. And again, Russia being who they are, not one to really release the full manner of everything that they had found.
How long after their deaths were they found?
It was about within a 2-week period after they had been found. So not quite 2 weeks. I think it was like a week, almost a week and a half. They had sent out a massive party after they had lost touch and they had not shown up to where they were supposed to be. And they had also had some curiousness about what occurred. There was... So some of the high strangeness that occurred, there was a picture that was taken. It was the last picture ever taken on the one young lady's camera, and it was of a kind of blurred picture of a massive figure, some distance away from where they were camped, and it was peeking around a tree, not much, different from what you hear Bigfoot and Sasquatch to do, tree peeking. It was a very large, dark figure with no signs of clothing on this individual, which gives some people idea that possibly there could have been a situation that arose because they were in an area that they were not allowed to be in. It was supposedly known by this one type of peoples that live there. I'll find the name for their who they were, but
Do you have that photo? Do you have that photo?
I do. I will find it while you guys talk if you'd like, and I can share it up on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, don't forget that there were eyewitnesses that stated that they had seen orange balls of light or fireballs in the sky as well.
Where were the eyewitnesses?
They were there is a native population that lives in that area, so they weren't far away.
And they were seeing things in the sky.
Yeah, they were seeing things in the sky, and I believe that they also said that they heard some big boom sounds.
Interesting.
That was in one of the documentaries I watched.
So you don't think it wasn't you've ruled out something otherworldly? You think it was the military testing some stuff?
Yeah, well, yeah, and one of the reasons I think that too is that the military, the Soviet army sealed off the area pretty quickly and would not let anybody in. And I know they really held like tight control over the whole investigation.
Is it possible some of the injuries they did to each other with whatever usage of this weaponry may have affected them psychologically and they were actually attacking each other?
That's a good point. Yeah, I would think possibly. I mean, if they're that affected by these sound waves, or
I agree.
Would they say they may have been testing a sonic sound,
infrasound? They may have been testing which
gun or something that they were. Yeah,
I'm not sure about that. I do know that they said there may have been, as you're saying, David, a testing going on. What they had specified was it could have been in use of the type being used, being infrasound, which we know infrasound being utilized by natural animals in the world, lions, tigers, whales. And other, I think elephants utilize them as well. What the predator type animals utilize them is to basically cause all of the blood and organs inside of a an animal that they're hunting to discombobulate them and cause issues. One of the things also thought is that cryptids utilize these dogmen and Bigfoot. People have talked about hearing their roars and being discombobulated. Me and my friends, just to drop it real quick, when this thing roared at us outside when we first saw it, all four of us felt some form of discombobulation. I started to go down on my knees. I had my hands on my knees. I wanted to keep my eyes on this thing, and I kept my head up, but I wanted to drop. My buddy next to me said some of the similar things happened to him. The two on the end in the line we were standing in, both were down. One of my friends was like dry heaving, and the one who had seen it first and dropped first said that he thought he was going to lose consciousness, which gave us the impression, as I did research for years, that it was possibly infrasound. We had so many of the said symptoms of what those cause.
I've heard that certain frequencies could actually kill you. They have that technology. I don't know if that's true or not.
I think it does exist. Yeah, some extreme.
Chris, do you see this? What I have up on the screen, by the way?
Yeah.
So that's the last picture that was taken of whoever or whatever that was in the Dyatlov's Pass, and it gives you that type of view of what you would imagine possibly, a Sasquatch look like. You look at the head, there's no flesh, it seems, around the face and eyes. I also have another picture here I wanted to show you guys that will include that. When you're done looking at it, Chris, let me know.
Has this picture ever been enhanced?
So here, let me bring this up. Sorry. Bring it up. That's the best I could find. Let me see. I have another one I want to show you here.
Oh.
So this one was a comparison that they had done to known sizes of Sasquatch and Yeti, but they also made comparisons to, if it was a hooded figure. But they said hooded head, the dark face could be a ski mask,
Right.
Torso. I can't really read that part. But some said it could be just a person all covered up. But, most have said that, this was an area. And let me give you the theories here. One of them was, the Mansi. The Mansi people were this people like like Alaskans have certain people that live out in remote parts. The Mansi, this one thought was that these people, because they were upset that they had entered an area that was when you enter the area, there was a carved forgive me, I can't think of it, what all the Indians used before. I'm having a mind fart here.
Totem pole.
Totem pole. Thank you very much. And they had a totem pole that signified the animals in the area, and one of them in the area was of a yeti. And the supposed Mansi thought was the area that they had entered, they never hunted, they never went into, because supposedly this is an area that Yeti were supposedly living, and they did not ever cross into this. This is there was a picture of them taking. I can find that for you guys too, of this totem pole. They took a picture of it, and supposedly there were Mansi words on it saying warnings. Of course, they did not know what they meant, and they laughed about it and entered this area, which gave some the idea that possibly a Yeti had killed these people.
Is there any other evidence that it could have been an animal that attacked the people? Is there anything that could support that outside of, because I didn't know about the local story, so that opens the door to some idea. But is there anything else on the body that may lend to that?
No, they did not have bite marks or claw marks that would give the idea that a bear or something else large had, bitten into them or caused cuts or lacerations that would come from a predator type animal.
I think they said that the girl's tongue that was cut out was a pretty clean cut.
She either bit her tongue or someone else bit her tongue off, they said.
I mean, I would believe these high sonic, acoustic weaponry. And I'd asked earlier, is it possible that they did this to each other in part? Because
that's an interesting theory. I had never heard that one before. Dave, you?
I don't know if I've heard that exactly, but I mean, if you make people, make people crazy enough, I guess they would do anything to each other, right?
Right.
Yeah. It makes me think of, even though it's somewhat fiction, the Jacob's Ladder story in the beginning. They're given drugs, but if it can be done with some kind of acoustic weaponry to turn people against each other like that, were there any weapons at hand that were discovered that may have lent to that theory?
No, I believe the only weapons that they had found, I think, were just the normal hunting weapons. I don't believe they were armed with guns or anything like that. They might have had like an axe or something like that.
Yeah.
The discovery, let's see here. I got all the details. Expedition. Discovery, search party finds camp. Tent was cut open from the inside. Bare footprints leading away from the snow. 2 bodies found near a tree, and an underwear. 3 more bodies found days later, appearing to die from exposure. 4 remaining hikers found much later with gruesome injuries. Reconstruction of the camp in its bizarre state, drone flyovers of the area, redrawn forensic diagrams, and survivor style recreations were utilized. Distant screams buried in the wind sounds, muffled heartbeat sounds, sudden music drop during tongue removal segment. Some people had said in different parts of the area, including the Mansi tribe, which they completely wiped that out of the possible murder situation that the Mansis had killed them. These people actually even helped find them. They were a non-violent people. They had said that they had heard screams on the wind. They had heard weird sounds in the wood lines, and I remember the one they interviewed said booms and loud type strange and odd and mysterious sounds coming from the woods that night. Same as you brought up as well, David. People seeing orange orbs in the area, which give an idea of either, again, obviously could be military or which a lot of people think, aliens were possibly behind this. Obviously, nothing that they've found up to date has proven exactly, what occurred. And, the government, again, is not giving out their final findings. They've been very hush hush about stuff. The stuff they've released has minimal information, tons of redacted information, which people know in the U.S. does as well.
Who would you say conducted the most thorough investigation?
The most thorough investigation, it seems, was done after the fact, years later. It seems. Hey, Lisa, how are you?
Oh, I tried to sneak.
No, we see everything. Good to see you.
All right, good to see you too. I'm just doing dishes.
All right.
Carry on.
So they had done another government investigation and a private investigation in 2021. It seemed when I watched the documentary that I had seen that the private investigation had more because of, not having the problem of getting the government to give out things. Now, the government supposedly did release more information in the second finding, but again, a lot of redacted information and still a lot of hush hush
Sure.
going on.
So, out of all of this and all of these years, it's been quite some time, and probably the greatest interest has been in the last 10, 15 years.
Right.
Did anyone find anything that's striking that supports something against the public statement from the government? Because I guess they closed the book and said it was the rock slide thing, which has been dispelled, or at least unofficially.
Right. Yeah. Private, again, like I said, the private scientist who said that he found no findings that they gave to be the cause. Let me real quick, I'm looking up the name of the documentary that I saw recently.
But do you think a large enough sonic boom could create those type of injuries with the crushed rib cages, and that one guy had a crushed skull?
I mean, could
It
have
would have to be directed.
Yeah, could it have knocked them down and maybe someone hit their head on a tree? Could it have made them go haywire and hurt each other, run, completely lose focus, lose psychological focus, their grounding, and just run maniacally into the woods? I don't know.
And again, what I was just saying as well, I would imagine having that type of sound being have to be directed for it to really cause enough damage, because you hear, like, we have a flyover area right over my house where the Youngstown military uses it to fly their helicopters and jets and their big I forget the name of the huge propeller planes that they use. They fly over all the time, and once in a while we'll get fighters that'll fly over, and you'll hear the sound clap. And I unless it would be super low and directed, I can't see how that would hurt anyone. I mean, it really will wake you up if you're not expecting it.
Well, they use that technology in riots today, correct? And in some cases, people are knocked down, no?
Right. True.
I think they use some type of 5G in those anti-riot things that they shoot at people.
So it's different.
Yes. That is, it utilizes microwaves instead of sound. It causes immense heat to heat up the fluids underneath the skin, which causes great discomfort, and that makes people run. Obviously, yeah, that's what they put on top of the Hummers and things like that.
Okay, so it's a completely different thing.
There's one that they utilize in seagoing vessels that does have, it's the LRAD, I believe it's called. That might be the sound one that you're talking about, Christopher. There is one that has immense sound. Yeti Massacre explores the Dyatlov Pass incident and the possibility of a Yeti's involvement in the hiker's death. The documentary, which aired on Travel Channel February 18th, 2024, delves into the unsolved mystery of the 9 hikers who perished in the Ural Mountains in 1959. That's the one that I had watched recently that has the scientist completely, throwing out the avalanche theory.
But did they find any Yeti tracks or any evidence that they were there? I never heard of them finding any weird tracks or anything like that.
Let's see.
I'm just, I'm taking everything in and just thinking about it, but
no credible evidence of Yeti.
Breaking things down, not getting too far out into any of those categories, but the things to consider though were the witnesses that you mentioned earlier, seeing things in the sky. That's definitely something to consider and look further into, because they had nothing. There was no fame to gain for them back then. There was no reason for them to lie about what they saw. So I think looking further into that would be a little closer. What would be in the sky? What were they, and what were the sounds they were hearing? Now, they could have heard screaming as the aftermath of whatever was happening to them. But again, you said the rock slide thing was ruled out at this point.
Yeah, the slab avalanche.
Yeah, that's what that in the documentary I just talked about. That's where that scientist was in it. And again, he gave his credentials on to why he would be one to be able to discount these, and he gave specifics on why the avalanche and the slab avalanche were not pertinent to how this occurred. So I'm not going to keep beating a dead horse and bringing up old stuff that I said.
Yeah. It's how we break it down. The discussion we're having is good,
Agreed. Here, let me change this camera here. I want us all up close. Sorry, guys. There we go. All right. We were all too far away. I want everyone to see your pretty faces. So, no, I agree, Christopher, 100%. You bring up good points as well. I love that. Anyone, I've had the luck of being, Chris, David is getting some.
Oh, that's great.
Love it.
I have one of those back there. Oh, don't make me start taking things out.
The only one I have is this guy here.
Zoltar machine over there.
Oh man, he breaks that out. That's the best one. The only one I have here, if I can get it in the picture, I can't at the moment. I have a Bigfoot 3D, and he's not in the picture. I'm not going to bring him in. He's not as good as yours. I just have a Bigfoot guy hanging off of the microphone, but he's too far away in this. I do have something, though, that BJ Lapierre, my good friend, made. She was just on. This Dogman. Wow. Yeah, she made this for me, which is, she makes all types of very cool things. So, see the Dogman, I'll have to put some amber eye on him. So that's a cool one I got. But Christopher, if anybody ever lucks out and gets him to bring you through his house on a camera, man, he's got a museum in his place. It makes me very jealous of everything he's got. Oh, brother, you come on, don't be bashful. You've got tons of stuff in your house.
I have some fun stuff.
He does. And he should. He's made so many great things and has amazing things coming on the way. David, you also have a documentary coming up this year. You want to let everybody know real quick?
Yeah, so I started shooting back in 2022, and I didn't really know a whole lot about cryptids, and I got fast tracked with a researcher and spent a lot of time in the field. So um, I'm in the editing phase right now, and I've had some delays because it's just me. And but the end of the before the end of the year, that's my target date. So it should be really interesting because it's not just interviewing people and going to places. It's about my journey as becoming a researcher, and actually I spent a lot of time out in the woods, and I've recorded these creatures on on audio, and it's going to be my research in there too. So it should be pretty interesting, and it's all based around the Ohio area, and we've got a lot of weird stuff going on here. So
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. It's very. I'm gonna be in that one. He had me, and it's been almost 2 years since we recorded together. So I'll be interested to see that one as well. A lot of good stuff in there. He caught some really cool things, Christopher. He's stuck microphones in woods. What are some of the lengths of time, David, that you've had them in there? I know you've had them in there for a while. Some of them.
yeah, the microphones, the battery will die within 48 hours. So those, are usually in for a couple days. It's the trail cams I'll put out there. And, I know that the trail cams probably won't, I believe that Bigfoot can see the infrared, but I've caught some great audio with the trail cams because what I do is I set them up in time lapse mode. So they're like constant recording, like every 5 minutes or every 2 minutes. So I've actually caught some weird, like, kind of orbs on them too in the middle of the woods at night. So, but yeah, I always put out audio recorders. As a matter of fact, over the holiday weekend, there was, we were near a swamp preserve, and I found a lot of, we decided to take a hike back in there because I wanted to go back there. We found a lot of, like, we call it wood talk, but some structures and a couple big X's, and I put out my audio recorder there for the night. So I'm going through that. So yeah, I'm always putting audio recorders out.
You had also he did something really interesting, Christopher. You had put out with some of your recorders cinnamon. Was it? Was it cinnamon?
Yeah, that's when I got the really weird. I put cinnamon on the ground, and most animals don't like cinnamon. And I put the recorder about 40 feet away from it, and that was one of the most interesting nights of recording I've ever gotten, because I have about almost a minute, maybe 45 seconds of it sounds like a Native American Indian chant, but there's no discernible words or obviously drums. And that's the night also that my recorder, it was up 6 feet high and wedged in the Y of a tree, and it was actually taken out of the tree and thrown on the ground, and it was still recording, and the screen was locked, and I didn't lock the screen, and the only way to do that is there's a hard lever on the side, so you need a thumb to do that. And obviously, since it was recording when it was taken out of the tree, you can hear it. It's just like boom, boom, like something just grabbed it and threw it on the ground. So yeah, it was.
Didn't you get the sound of it? Sounded like something was eating.
Yeah, like chewing and swallowing as it walked up. You can hear something. It sounds like it's on 2 feet walking up, kind of hanging out by the microphone, like chewing and swallowing. Also, there's a bunch of like tree snaps and pops, rock clacks, wood knocks, some weird primate sounds that I had never heard before, and some grunts. So yeah, that was an interesting night.
And what area was this again?
That was in the Cuyahoga Valley.
Which I don't know, Chris, if you're aware of the Cuyahoga Valley near Cleveland. That is one of the biggest hot spots in Ohio altogether. It's been called a diamond in the rough, like because it's starting to be found out, obviously, but it's been one of those more lesser known Bigfoot hunting spots where people see who live in the area see them on the reg, and they live right by the park or the reserve there, and so Cuyahoga is definitely an area that you get tons of people seeing and hearing strange things. David also caught a really awesome picture. Where were you when you caught the Dogman picture, Dave?
I was actually, I work in Strongsville, and I was on my lunch break, and there's a small park nearby, and it's about a 25-minute loop, and I was on the back side of that loop, and I heard something big smashing in the woods about 120 feet from me, and it didn't sound like a deer, and it was pretty loud and sounded pretty heavy, and all I had on me was my cell phone, so I snapped probably about 4 or 5 pictures, and then I got the heck out of there. And then I didn't even really notice, I didn't even see it until a couple months later when I was going through the pictures and zooming in. So yeah, it's all black. Yeah, I've got a video I put out on my YouTube channel about it, but it was all black. It's got the pointy ears, the snout, and I mean, it's looking right at me. It's pretty creepy.
I've got the picture, Chris. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I want to see it.
But
it's really cool.
But when I went back there in the video, I go back there and go down in. It slopes down about 4 or 5 feet into a creek down there, but it's a big briar patch. When I go down in there where it was, you can barely see me down in there. So it had to have been pretty tall.
Were you scared?
I didn't know what it was. I was scared at how big it sounded. So after I took the pictures, I headed back to the parking lot pretty quickly.
After I read the Cowboy Land chapter in Roosevelt's The Wilderness Hunter years ago, I've been terrified of going into situations like that. This was before, I think, I read that well before I even made Montauk Chronicles or even started shooting it in 2006. And that story, the Bauman story, if you haven't read it, is terrible.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. I love that one.
Yeah. But it was never confirmed exactly what Bauman was talking about. He never said Sasquatch. He said it killed my friend, and it wasn't human.
He's lucky he got out of there too.
He ran out the second day because he went to go collect the thing
traps
camp that one night. Yeah, they said, let's clear out the traps, let's get out of here before sundown. And then he found his friend dead and took off. And that's what's so scary about it, because it's so authentic that you just run, flight, absolute flight, just go.
And again, as you've mentioned, way back in time where there'd be no reason for him to lie about anything, just matter of fact, this is what happened, and boom.
Yeah, he was much older when he confided in Roosevelt, and Roosevelt was really touched by the story. Right. He even prefaces everything by saying, I don't usually believe in this stuff, and frontiersmen don't usually either, but I have to tell you this. And just paraphrasing, but that's how he wrote it.
Hey, David, what's the name of the video on your channel that has that picture in it, so everybody can hear it?
Three recent Dogman encounters in Ohio.
And that's on Exposing the Strange, everybody, on YouTube. I'll share that with you, Chris, or if you find it. Great channel as well on YouTube. David's doing an absolutely kick-ass job.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely. I did want to move on here a little bit and let everybody hear us move on. So the next subject I wanted to move on is very well known as well, especially here in this area of high strangeness that we love to stick into, and that's missing 411. David Politis does an incredible job of, recording these events and really getting in depth about some of these more specific ones. And what I did earlier is I wanted to talk about some specific ones, and I'm going to bring them up here. I'm getting past the Dyatlov Pass here, my information there. So what are the missing 411 cases, everybody, just to let you know? Coined by David Politis, a former police officer turned researcher, refers to hundreds of unsolved disappearances in North American wilderness areas. Common features: sudden vanishings, lack of scent trail, no cause of death, strange weather, removed clothing, sometimes folded and set next to bags or the body themselves, bodies found in bizarre locations like on sides of cliffs or in streams, where areas that people who go out in mass numbers to try and find these lost souls went through it. The exact areas, they come back and they find the body. And in a strange, sometimes curled up in a ball. Other strange things, like I just said, they'll find their dead body, and next to the dead body is their clothes and shoes folded with the shoes on top of it. They also, bless you. Patterns in strange cases, clustered locations often near granite-rich national parks. Canine interference, search dogs sometimes refuse to track the areas, disappearing in seconds. Sometimes people vanish while walking a few feet ahead of where these people disappear. Clothing folded or placed neatly, sometimes miles away from where their bodies are found. Bodies found uphill or in impossible places. Storms hit immediately, sometimes after these bizarre disappearances, and also bizarre survivor stories that imply non-human entities, others, or portals. So Dennis Martin disappeared in the Great Smoky Mountains in 1969. This is a well-known and strange disappearance, and very sad and tragic. He was 6 years old. Location: Tennessee, North Carolina border. Disappeared during a family picnic. He hid behind a bush to scare the adults. Never seen again. In fact, his father watched him hide behind the bush. And when he never came out, they went to get him from that area, and he was gone. A massive search turned up no scent, tracks, or evidence. And a family 2 miles away, this is the strangest, saw a bear-like man carrying a small child over his shoulder, running at impossible speeds through the woods. And the child was never found. Some of the other high strangeness that occurred, well, area was swarmed with Green Berets who refused to work with civilian searchers. Again, a sudden violent storm occurred immediately after the boy disappeared, and the cryptid theory: Bigfoot or feral human abducted the boy. Your thoughts, guys, on that?
Whoever wants to go first.
I'm just saying, I'm familiar with that story, but I never heard that they saw a bear-like man carrying a child. I didn't know that, but I knew they brought in the military to look for the kid, but I didn't know that.
Well, when I was designing the episode The Missing for my Strange World series, and I pitched it, it was 100% based on David's stuff. And we had David involved in the episode in the early days, and then because of scheduling, we didn't. But if you look at the Mount Shasta chapter in the first Missing 411 book, it's an adaptation. The entire 1 hour episode I did for Discovery is basically an adaptation of that. I talked to everybody that was in that chapter that David interviewed. I interviewed.
Oh, wow.
Went to all those locations. And I was trying to, what I'm getting at is what I was really pushing, and this is where the network comes in and they push you back, is that in private, David had said a lot of the time he's looking towards reclusive humans, okay? Because a lot of cases, regardless of all the weird stuff, lends to that, all right? Yes, there's some strange stuff for sure, but there are reclusive humans. For instance, as I had just finished and delivered that episode, and we focused a lot on Mount Shasta, and there were missing cases and things we couldn't explain, okay? But then there's this whole level of people that show up at Mount Shasta that believe that deep beneath the ground there are a race called the Lemurians that are deep beneath the ground, okay?
Mm-hmm.
With not a lot of evidence to support that. There's more evidence that there are reclusive human beings living in the wilderness. For instance, the summer that Strange World aired, there was a brand new story. And there was a woman that was going on a hike with her family. They parked the camper in a parking lot, and she had gone missing for 5 days, okay? They thought she was dead, gone. All right. What actually happened was, just like we would see in Friday the 13th, she saw a strange man with a knife. She ran into the woods, and this man followed her. She was gone for 5 days, shows up with this story. Thank God she's alive. They never found the guy, but a strange man in the woods with a knife.
Oh,
And this is out in a national park.
that's nightmare of nightmares.
So there's generations of young ladies or whoever going out into these remote areas and now FaceTiming and telling the exact location where they are.
Yep.
Like, I mean, and in some cases that's a good thing. In a lot of cases it's really bad.
Yes.
There are still reclusive people out there in the wilderness. People have been out there for years. And so in a lot of cases, and I think even David had said that he believes that a lot of the cases are that, these people that just live out there. Like we see in those horror films.
Yeah. Oh my God. What a nightmare that would be. I'm gonna bring up the second. Go ahead, David.
I was just gonna say you're talking about feral people, huh?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about feral. Maybe mountain man. You know, like people that have been out there for a long time.
Off the grid.
Feral people. Maybe families that have been out there. I mean, like, you know, the Shawnee Bean clan was hundreds of years ago, but something like that, maybe. Or just individuals who have completely outside of society, complete and total self-elected outcasts that also are not pleasant to be around, that are quite dangerous, that are covetous, that have human instincts, just like any reclusive criminal might. You know, you never know. Especially if he sees a woman walking alone on a hike.
Oh, just the worst idea. I agree with you, Chris. You know, there's this one lady, she's from Ohio. I'm actually going to be going over reaction videos here in the coming weeks on one of my new videos coming out. And I can't think of her name, but she goes out just like you say. She'll go out in deep woods. I'm in this park in Ohio in the deep woods. Come in, you know, and look at this. This is so free. And this one she has, and I'm going to do a reaction video. She actually starts to hear, she said it sounds like mumbling or talking. She starts getting freaked out. She ends up stopping when she hears noises up the trail from her, and she actually gets on her phone. It looks like just a huge dark silhouette of either a giant man or something else, and she starts to go, you know, hi, you know, in horrified fashion, like, you know, fear. Hi, hi. Oh God, oh God. And she starts to try and find her way out of the woods. She's having trouble finding her way out. She finally makes it out, and this thing, it's not a person, ends up coming out after her, and it will start walking towards her. She got it on record, and she screams no, and it like sits down like a dog, and then she starts to run from it. It stands up and starts to chase her. Thankfully for her, she was exhausted. You can hear her heavily breathing and horrified, which being scared takes the energy from you as well. And she makes it up to an area where the cars drive by, and a car was coming by. She stopped it.
Hmm.
First of all, again, not the smartest thing to do ever in the world, and very scary. That one was actually one of the videos that actually made me like scared for this woman. This could easily be a missing 411 case, and this woman never seen again.
Well, wasn't Ted Bundy at one point went into a national park and killed two women, didn't he? They were camping, you know. So then that's somebody on the outside that went in. I believe that there are some very reclusive people, borderline feral, maybe feral.
D's Dark Adventures, that's what it's called. Sorry, Chris.
What's D's Dark Adventures?
That's the lady's name I just was talking about.
Oh, okay.
That's her channel. She has a huge following. I hope nothing bad ever happens. Go ahead, buddy. I'm sorry.
Oh, what was I saying?
You were talking about how people just either come into the woods looking for them, or they are camping and disappear.
Yeah, I think those stories can be applicable to a lot of the missing people stories. I looked into this for quite a bit. I mean, we were doing 6 months of research before we actually made the episode, and then we went on location. I went into talked to all these people, to families of the missing people, and search and rescue, local sheriff, local native people, a lot of people I spoke to out there, and I was always trying to stay in something tangible, something that I could grasp, because I didn't want to go directly into the supernatural. I didn't want to jump from I'm here now and I'm not going to dismiss anything else, because to me, the fact that there are reclusive people out there and they are a danger or could be a danger is just as interesting to me than there would be a Sasquatch.
Agreed. I agree. I'm going to bring up this next case, the case of John Doe, Canada, 2015 survivor account, thank God. 3-year-old boy near a remote lake in British Columbia. The details were it was found alive days after disappearing, unharmed, without exposure injuries. Claimed he was cared for by a big woman with hair all over her body. She fed him berries and kept him warm. Cryptid theory, female Sasquatch, forest people, or interdimensional beings or guardians of nature. Obviously, a 3-year-old child is only going to explain to you the only way he can know how, or she gives his account. A hairy, big woman.
Okay, stop right there. From a 3-year-old child's perspective, could it have been a woman wearing fur, unkempt,
For sure.
or a man with feminine type structure, with long hair wearing fur? I'm not dismissing. I believe Sasquatch exists here and there throughout the world. There has existed, and there are a lot of credible witnesses throughout history, and history lends to that. So I'm not dismissing that as a possibility. I'm just saying that I really do believe there are a lot of reclusive people out there.
I agree with you. I do want to bring up. Yeah. I'm sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
I'm just saying that there's evidence to support that.
Oh, 100%. I agree with you. Absolutely. Just as much chance of either of them happening. I just wanted to bring up, and I know, Christopher, with all of your studies and documentaries of Indians having accounts and telling stories of Bigfoot or female Bigfoot. kidnapping children and taking them in the woods. Plenty of stories going way back into Indians' times. So, David, your thoughts, buddy?
I would think that. So you're saying that this was in Canada, in Alberta?
Yeah, in British Columbia, well-known Sasquatch area.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, I would think obviously a 3-year-old child, yeah, is going to have a limited vocabulary. And you said it was gone for 3 days?
3 days.
3 days. Is it one of the ones where they said that some of these kids that have been missing for multiple days will say that it was like sunny or light the whole time they were gone?
It doesn't give that description. I do remember, if you're bringing up the one where some of them have disappeared for days, and they said it was like their grandma or something, but it wasn't them, or a cabin had appeared in the woods, and then once they were found, the cabin was gone. Are you getting into that one?
No, I just remember some of the stories that the children say that had been missing for 3 or 4 days, that they were in a place where it was constantly light, like it never got dark.
I don't see that there. I am coming up on some other well-known ones, though.
Well, I don't think it was a bear. I'll tell you that.
No.
So yeah, I would think it would either be a Sasquatch or maybe a feral person. Yeah.
And New England Dirt Roadie, you know what I'm talking about, Robot Grandma. So what he's referring to was what I just brought up. There was, and that's not one of the ones I'm bringing up here. So there was a account of a young, I think it was a boy, found who got lost in the woods. He said he was lost for a long time and came up on a cabin in the woods where his grandma was inside, but she sounded like a robot grandma, he called her. And when the time started to end of where he was found, this person brought him to the trail and said, wait here. And not but minutes later, where they had gone through, the horse and people that were looking for him turned around and were coming back, and he's standing on the trail. And when the parents were asking him about what had occurred, he said, Grandma, you were there, but your voice was like a robot. So gives you some really strange ideas of what occurred there. Chris, you talking about I forget the name of the people you say that live inside of the mountains.
Yeah, I think we covered the robot grandma story in that episode as well. You watched that episode, didn't you?
I did. I remember you going over that.
But yeah, I'm open to it, and all I know is that even search and rescue, local law enforcement, and family members all could agree on one thing together, is that there's just some things about these situations that they simply cannot explain. They can't tell you why these things happen. They're completely anomalous. People vanishing within seconds. There was, as we were developing this episode, there was one I really wanted to incorporate, the story about that one crew member, the sound crew member, where they were out shooting and he's just standing there with them and he's fine. And then all of a sudden he just runs at full speed into the wilderness, never to be seen again, just out of the blue.
Yes, I do remember that story.
Yeah, so there's a lot of odd stuff out there. And I guess if okay, there was an explanation and there was a truth to be found, and it was a rational truth or something that we could palate, then maybe our imaginations would simmer down. But I think there's a lot of reason to think bigger in these situations too, especially because of, I mean, I've read some stuff in Missing 411. It's one of the scariest books I ever read. Like reading it some years ago.
The Hunted was amazing.
Yeah, there's the first one, the orange cover. I mean, but there was some stuff in there, like somebody saw a clown like Pennywise.
Oh
There
man.
was some eyewitness accounts that were a little out there, but I'm not dismissing it completely. I mean, a lot of things that Stephen King wrote seem to tap into either he read it somewhere or science fiction writers are somewhat prophets, because he wrote about a lot of things that whether it be government programs, certain experiments, stuff like psychic abilities, everything that he was tapping into. And I think it was semi-inspired by the Twilight Zone. But then, there's some stuff that seems to have happened after that, after these science fiction writers jot these things down. So I don't think it's in total fiction, in other words. And I know you're somebody that witnessed a werewolf when he was 14. I mean, when you hear these stories, do you immediately go to the most supernatural aspect, or you try to rationalize it first?
No, especially after what occurred with me, I of course try and go first to, is this, are they just pulling our leg here? Do they want to just get on a show? Secondly,
Yeah, just what could it be?
what could it be? And could it have been a natural animal? I always first go to natural explanations.
The fact in these situations that these are missing people that law enforcement and search and rescue couldn't explain why they're missing. So that in itself is unique, and they can't figure out what happened. And these are experts. They do this every day.
Right.
And then you have this other level. Well, someone wants to put an explanation to it. And like you had just said, there's a lot of people that want to put explanations for different reasons. Where I come in is somewhere completely different. I'm very curious of these things, but I'd love to find out if it is something supernatural. But the way to do that is to start weed out all other possibilities first.
Check it off.
Well, yeah, one of the things that David Paulides talks about too is that a lot of these people are found deceased near water, whether it be a small stream or a river or a lake. Like, water always seems to be involved. And one of the things I did a while ago was I compared the David Paulides' missing 411 map with Bigfoot sightings map. And it's interesting how they almost line up perfectly. So.
Yeah, well, didn't he suggest that there were some Bigfoot stories involved in this? I mean, almost directly suggested that people
People what? What was that, Chris?
Oh, people witnessed the Sasquatch?
I think
that 100%.
He doesn't actually come out and say that Sasquatch or UFOs are taking people. He kind of lets you decide what the facts that he presents. But
right.
Yeah.
Did you ever talk to him?
I've never talked to him. No.
I would love to someday.
We were talking to him for a little while, when we were developing the episode. And
he's gotten I spoke to a good friend of mine who had an interview with him, and I was like, "Oh, can you get me in touch with him?" And they're like, "I will do my best," but apparently he does not like to give many interviews these days.
Yeah, this was
I don't know
when we were developing the show in 2018, and this was with Discovery. So, it was Discovery's R&D. He was scheduled to be part of the episode. We just continued with the episode because, he had to do his own documentary. So,
Chris, something here Philip Croyle brought up that you and I just spoke about the other day. You talked about orangutans were called a myth until found. Locals called them something to the effect of hairy old men. I remember you and I having our conversation the other night, and you were saying, when we were talking about Sasquatch, about if people saw orangutans, how much that would blow their minds.
Well, what I was saying was, I think so many people are ignoring what we can see, as opposed to jumping immediately to things that, look, there was a guy not that long ago, and for many years he was a magician, James Randi. I don't know if you heard of him. There were a lot of people that, in the supernatural world that hated him because they felt like he was destroying everything they were building. Well, what are you building? Because he offered $1 million for anyone that could prove any of this stuff, and no one could. And all that time, no one brought a shred of evidence to this guy. And I think he genuinely, secretly wanted to find out. Houdini was doing the same thing. So I have the same frustrations because I've had odd things happen to me, but I've seen a lot of people immediately skip over anything. First of all the fascinating things, like I was telling Matt, that when was the last time you actually observed a real primate that you can sit and watch? It's like we don't even care about these things.
Yep.
Just as amazing to me as a Sasquatch in the wilderness. It's just another species, of hominid. So what I'm saying is, yeah, it's amazing. These stories are amazing. The mystery is amazing. What's not amazing to me are people that just start making shit up,
Right.
constantly, just to get whatever views. I don't care about that stuff. So I've been doing this my whole life, and I care about this stuff, and that's why I'm making the shows I'm making. That's why I make the things I make, and so that's why I take my time with this stuff. That's why I ask a lot of questions. I'm not James Randi. I'm not trying to make people feel uncomfortable. And I'm not trying to trust me, I have a lot of fun with this stuff, but the last thing I'm going to do is just jump in on a conversation and say, yeah, it was a Martian werewolf that killed all those people in Russia.
Oh, I love the way you go. You have to go at it intelligently and check the boxes to see if it was something natural or unincredible until you get to the cryptid, paranormal, supernatural types of
Well, it's
events.
frustrating constant. I think on a nightly basis, people are saying there are werewolves and vampires running around. Literally,
Right.
you can go outside and look at them, and you cannot because I
Right.
don't see them. All right, where are they? And so to sit there and say that over and over again, I think we're killing this thing.
Yeah.
We're killing any possibility for finding anything real because now it becomes supply and demand. So I love these stories. One of the most credible Bigfoot stories. I can keep going back to that Patterson film, man, the Gimlin Patterson film. No one's been able to completely disprove that, even though they have said they did. It's,
But they couldn't point out where it was recorded.
They can't point out where it was recorded.
Where it was recorded. When they say, well, where did you record it? Exactly where was it recorded? And they have no idea.
I thought people have been back to that exact location.
Yeah, they did. They measured it.
Yeah, but the people that when they had come out saying they were in the suit back then, they had said, so can you show me where you did it at? And they were incapable of finding it.
No, Bluff Creek, they went back to that spot. I think they measured it up. Yeah.
No, I mean the people that said they wore the suit said that they were not capable.
Right. No, right. Well, the same thing happened with the Amityville haunting story. There were several people involved in the beginning, and they were cut out of the situation when the Lutzes ended up making the deal for the book. So, of course, their revenge was to say that everyone was lying. A lawyer didn't get paid, so, of course, he wanted his revenge, and he said everybody was lying. And I don't think so. I think Kathy and George took that, regardless of how much money they made, whatever they cashed in on, those two people died with that story. They died with it, and there's some things to support it. First of all, there was a family that was murdered in that house, and they did leave 28 days after moving in, and abruptly, with no guarantee you're going to make a dime off of anything, especially at that time. There was no YouTube. They can go put up this story, and there was no. Right. There are so many true believers today. If I told you, tomorrow I changed my name and I said, asparagus people invaded my home last night, I'm going to get an audience. There's going to be people that be like, oh my God.
For sure.
Asparagus. But I am a person that heard a disembodied voice when I was 14 that talked almost all night. And I'm not crazy. I might be a little crazy, but I'm not crazy enough to hear voices. And it was an event that I will take to my grave, just like a lot of people do with these stories, that there was something whispering in a house when I was 14. And
again, the 14, the age.
Well, okay, so Dr. Barry Taft, who was one of the main parapsychologists over at the UCLA parapsychology department in the early 70s, one of the things he brought up was the ages between like 11 and 14, where you have all these incredible hormonal changes and all this chemistry is happening, could be conducive to a haunting. Then you had Michael Persinger later, who was using the God helmet, which I have here in this office, or derivatives of geomagnetic energy to inspire the prefrontal lobe of the brain. And in combination, all those things, we could maybe simulate a haunting. Could we simulate something? To find a Sasquatch or something like that, what David is doing, like putting out these cameras for long periods of time, is very smart, because I think it needs to be something like that. It needs to be some kind of monitoring system, completely incognito to whatever's out there, completely. Like they don't know it's there. And
Right.
months. It has to be for months, I think.
Well, what do you guys think, David? I'll ask you first. What do you think would be the best new way to maybe give it a try of getting some recording or hardware out there without drawing attention to something that's intelligent?
Well, I mean, that's the $1 million question, and that's one of the things I'm trying to do. Um, like I said, I think they can see trail cams,
I agree.
but
Infrared, they do.
yeah, but if you could somehow, there's got to be new. I mean, do you think they can see thermal technology?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, so that might be the way to do it. But then you have a thermal image. You don't have a really clear image. Um, I, for me, audio's worked best so far. But yeah, I want to get an image, and I don't know. Maybe I've thought about ideas on how to draw them to me. So I've got an idea for a video, doing some um, stealth camping in the national park, um, by myself, and trying to bring them in areas I know that where there's a lot of evidence that they're there.
David, would you bring a weapon with you?
I I would bring probably my 9mm handgun.
Yeah.
Because
Good choice.
let's face it, most of the time the reason I carry it with me when I'm out in the middle of the woods off trails, not really for Bigfoot, it's
People.
other humans that might want to do some bad stuff. So yeah, I would definitely have that with me. I'd also have a big knife.
Yeah.
Bear mace, good choice to bring with you as well.
Yeah,
I think
I have that in my car.
it would have to be an expedition. Diane Fossey, took 7 years or something to find the mountain gorilla? Something like that. It would have to be an expedition. Whatever these things are, they're very elusive, and I think they're very conscious of us. They don't want anything to do with us.
No.
I mean, some of the stories, they have, a family of big feet watching Saturday Night Live with them or something, but I don't believe those ones.
but I think they're curious though, and I think
Yeah.
you did it the right way. You could possibly bring them to you.
I met some good people that said that they are curious enough to communicate somehow, and I've heard those stories. But I think a good deal of them, obviously, because the reason why we don't have any ironclad evidence yet is because they are extremely elusive and small and population conscious of their breeding population. There's no overbreeding. Like, we have an invasive species here. In New York, sometimes the deer overpopulate. Here we have overpopulation of gator and now pythons and interesting things. And the other documentary I'm making, I'm covering all of this. But in the case of the whether it be the skunk ape or the Sasquatch or Bigfoot, I think they're very clear that they don't want anything to do with us for the most part. Maybe there's some interaction with good people, and I've heard those stories.
Ron Moorhead, somebody that we know. I've had Ron on my show. Him and I talked a lot about what occurred with him in California at their camp and the things that he recorded. He also was asked to go to a newer show. It's in Alaska, the Killer Sasquatch show that they do. It was I can't think of the area in Alaska. It's where they had all of the town people had basically bugged out overnight. They had a canning area there. Anybody in the chat, if you could.
I think you're talking about Port Chatham.
Thank you, Port Chatham. Yes. They had filmed a new show there. They had Ron Moorhead go there. He brought recordings from his times that he'd been around them, and they sound blasted on huge speakers into the Port Chatham area where these guys filmed this new show. They're trying to bring in, their people into this area because where they're living now, the food supplies are getting low and things, and they want to go in there because it's just untouched and tons of just natural resources, water, things like that, what they're hurting on. And when they sound blasted, they got all kinds of responses. Things were that had come close to where they were. They got sounds recorded and things. So that's a well-known area for violent, supposedly Sasquatch that had. The story was that they had put this Port Chatham area in there, the town. They had a small post office, a huge canning area for fish, and almost overnight, they just pulled up and left. In fact, the mailman was one of the last to leave, and supposedly there was something killing hunters that were going into these woods. One was killed with a gigantic piece of equipment that was supposedly lifted and smashed his head with. The stories were that there was Sasquatch that were killing people, and people tell stories. They saw them, they heard them, they found the bodies mauled, and they were unlike anything that bears do. It was a completely different type of mauling. They were just basically ripped apart and left in lagoons around where they had lived. So that was a very interesting story. And I thought it was really cool when Ron went there and they got responses from the sound blasting. Hey, Mary. Mary Carlisle's here, Chris. So, very interesting. I hope, that you, Dave, are the one that pioneers some new equipment out there. I'd love it if you did. Somebody had mentioned this one disappearance I just want to bring up for them, because they had mentioned them. It was another child that had disappeared. Let me see here. Where is he? So it was another child that disappeared, and what he had spoken about was a bear, and this is what you would, I think, mention too, Chris or David, about a bear man uh, took care of a child overnight. Um, he said that the bear man protected me from bears and other animals that kept coming around. He put me in an area next to a tree that had fallen and protected me from the other animals. And he kept calling him, he was a bear man. So that was, another experience given from a missing child, and the only explanation he could give was from what he had seen, and the only way he could explain it was he looked like a bear man, and that's what occurred. So, some other ones that had also occurred. Jared Negrete, San Bernardino, California, 1991. 12 years old, Mount San Giorgio. Went missing during a Boy Scout hike, only found items his camera, which had photos of Jared and one final blurry photo of something unclear, possibly a face or creature. No remains found despite intensive search. Body never recovered. Theories: entity stalking, dimensional disappearance, or human being. Uh, case of the disappearing hunters, Vermont cluster, various years, Bennington Triangle, which is a known area of high strangeness in Vermont, cluster of 5+ disappearances in the same area through the 1940s and 50s. One man, Middle Rivers, vanished ahead of his hunting party, last seen turning a corner or trail on a trail and never found. No trace, no sounds, no signs of distress. Multiple cases include eerie silence, strange fogs coming out of nowhere, even strange UFO sightings. The case of the Wolfman. This is interesting because reports came from park rangers, which I'm sure everybody here knows that is something they usually don't comment on. Yosemite National Park 1990s reported in park ranger logs, but not officially confirmed. Camper claims they woke to find a man with elongated arms and glowing eyes peering into their tent. Multiple screams and disappearances reported during that summer. Unofficial ranger testimony refers to something we don't talk about in the backcountry: cryptid theory, dogman, or skinwalker or shapeshifter, skinwalker-esque entity or guardian of sacred lands taking these people. And interesting that a ranger would supposedly talk about it, but unofficially. So we can't prove that.
What outside of the Patterson film, which I think is quite credible if you really look into it, especially like all the William Munn analysis and all of that big thick book when Roger met Patty, that's a great book, and it really adds a lot of credibility to the situation, as does a few other things. But outside of that, what is the most credible? I could say even closest to evidence that we have to support some of this, because there's a lot of credible stuff. I mean, throughout history, throughout the world, there are stories from credible witnesses. So I think that's
you know what? There's one film, Chris. I hope I can find it while we're on here. I just saw it the other day. A gentleman who, for years, found tracks and tried to get on camera Sasquatch, and the gentleman, I think it was in the early 1990s or in the 80s, finally got a recording of a Bigfoot that they consider, next to the Patterson Gimlin, the most real footage anyone has ever gotten of a Sasquatch. And there's one other one that was recorded in Russia. Have you guys seen this film of a father and a son in Russia that got a recording of, it looks like either an ape or a Sasquatch running through the woods in Russia? The way that it moves is incredible, and I will try and get that right now for you guys.
I wonder how come
that,
how come nobody has organized an expedition that's not just made for show on TV, right? It could be documented, but I mean a true expedition where you get trackers, trained hunters that have no real skin in the game in terms of wanting to prove anything paranormal. They just, all right, you're hiring these experts, because none of us are expert trackers. Hiring experts. We create a base camp. I've said this to a couple of people. I'm shocked that nobody's done this. So there's a base camp, right? The base camp could be discussions, things we have. We document things. We talk, interview people. Goes on for a month or two, on and off it could be. But the experts, the trackers who have never looked for Bigfoot before, but they're used to looking for people or animals, are hired. And they're taken care of, and they're set up, and they have the mindset as well as the equipment to go now, and the knowledge to go and track whatever is out there. I think once and for all, to find out, to get solid evidence. I guess my other question is, what happens after that? What can you imagine the scenario that happens after it's 100% proven? One of these experts get out there, They get some video, or I mean, solid, indisputable evidence. 100% they found a small tribe of these things, or they found one of these things, or they even kill one of these things.
Right.
Then what happens? Then is it like every good old boy goes out to that area with their rifle to?
Right. I hope not.
But I'm honestly shocked and amazed that no one's really organized something like that. And I don't mean the finale of Finding Bigfoot. I mean an independent excursion designed for this purpose. I'd love to see it happen.
I mean,
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, who's to say that maybe it has been done, but it's just hasn't been made public.
Maybe because they didn't find anything, but
right.
It's still an interesting scenario. Even if you don't find anything, but let's say that would be the greatest attempt, but it would really have to be true experts. And I think that the people that are expert in history or people that have witnessed them could be part of the base camp scenario, because at that point we don't want too many people going out. Too many people going out would just.
Hey guys, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Chris. This is that Bigfoot footage from Russia.
Well, gentlemen, I'm going to go. I'm going to get back to work.
Hold on, let me stop this for a sec, Chris.
I'll see you next time, okay? I'll see you next time, bud.
Hey, thank you for coming, brother. Let me stop sharing this. Hold on one sec.
No worries. I'll see you next time. I got to get back to work on the show.
All right, Christopher. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it, brother.
Take care, everybody. Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good night. That was Christopher Garitano. Good friend. We appreciate him coming. I'm going to bring this up then. I'm going to share the screen real quick. All right, let me back this up, guys. This is really interesting, I think. You see how this thing moves from Let me bring this tab up again and rewind it.
No, it moves so effortlessly, and when it raises its arms up,
it does. Here, let me turn off the sound here. I agree.
You can see its muscles. I mean, you can see in it.
Yeah, you can see the muscles, the way it jumps right there.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Agreed with you, David. I mean, I really have trouble doubting this video.
Yeah, a person could not move like that.
No, I don't think any human being could.
Especially in a suit. And you can see it's kind of using, they say they can run on all fours. It looked like it was started out on all fours.
And look at the speed that thing is showing. Absolutely phenomenal. And the way it just, on all fours right there, it grabs the tree and then it just jumps down and boom, gone. No human being is going to be able to move like that. I find that incredible. Do you know about, I wish I could remember the other recording that I was talking with Christopher about. It's this one, if I can't remember it, basically this old guy's talking about, oh, look at the footprints. And he goes, oh, there he goes. And they show a Bigfoot walking through his camera footage.
It was that the guy who recorded it, like on VHS, and then
Yes, thank you.
in the 80s, and
Yep.
that son, like the interview was with his son, maybe like later on.
I did see it. I just saw that the other day. Let me
I
put
don't know
this
what
in
it's called.
here.
I don't know what that video is called.
I'm looking it up right now. Maybe I'll be able to find it for everybody. I'm looking through the choices. I'm not seeing it. Oh, I found it. I found it. Hold on. Let me go to YouTube and put this description in here real quick. So while I'm looking this up, David,
There's another one. Have you seen the one with the females holding the baby?
yes, I do, and that looks really good as well. The proof is out there. It's called is out there. Bigfoot. Let me go down and see if I can find this real quick. Everybody, give me a second here. Still looking. Because I had found it on my phone. There it is. I found it. All right, let me bring it up to this part. All right, and let me share this with you guys. I got it. Gotta love this is getting so much easier to share things now. All right, you guys see it?
Yes.
And there it is, right there.
Yeah.
So let me back this up just a little bit.
Oh, there he goes.
And that is the footage.
So
So this is on the proof is out there, and that is an actual, in my opinion, I really believe this guy caught a Sasquatch on his VHS. I mean, look at the size of that thing walking through there. It looks at him and then just keeps going. I'm going to try and stop this right when it looks at him, and we can go over the size of this thing. Right there. I mean, that's just a great shot, I think, of this thing. If you guys go on to YouTube and you look at, I'm sharing this, the proof is out there, unexplained eyewitness accounts of supernatural phenomena. You'll see this video. And when you see it for yourself, it really, really looks, I mean, legitimate to me. What do you think, David?
I'm trying to watch the movement.
It just doesn't look like a guy in a costume to me.
When it looks at him, I would like to try to clean up what its face looks like, because
Right.
can see you can see it that 1 second where it stares straight at him.
Maybe it'll clear up a little bit right here. That's clear, a little clearer, I think.
Right when he's in front of that pine tree, he like looks at him.
Yeah, I would love if you have the equipment to do it. I'll send you the link for this video.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get that and clear it up for everybody sometime. Of course, I'll have you. You're a regular here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that just looks really good to me. When you see it on your TV and you see him walking through the woods, and the guy's reaction, like he at one point goes, "Oh my!" He throws the camera down. He gets scared.
Yeah.
I find it really interesting, and I I think next to the Patterson Gimlin recording, which I think is 100% real, and the things that they have done to show the more detailed things going on in that film, um, you can tell that's real. I mean, they even show in the one leg in the muscle, it has a bulge from an injury in the muscle. You can see the breasts moving. Let's be honest. Back in that time, it you did not have the ability to make costumes. The guy who made Planet of the Apes was the ultimate maker of costumes at that time. He said there is no way I could have made something like that.
Yeah, and you think about if you were going to fake a Sasquatch or fake that outfit, why would you do a female one? I mean, that
Right.
could be so much harder to do.
I agree 100%. Very intriguing. I think it's I mean, I think that's a real one. We're going to start to, let's see, New England, what he just said here. That's what I think about the Michigan Dogman video. Um, which one are you talking about, New England? Um, Paul Freeman. I think it is Paul Freeman is the guy's name who video taped that, Tim. And Paul Freeman, I think, is the guy who recorded that on VHS. Thank you. See, that's what I love, the people in the chat, man. They get all the information for us. And Tim, I agree. There is views of Patty there, but it's a male. You can tell it's a male. If anybody has any questions for me or David, we're going to start tying things up here. I didn't even realize we've been going for 2 hours. Dave, why don't you let everybody know what's going on with you right now with Exposing the Strange and what's on the pipeline?
Well, I mean, there's definitely more videos coming out for the YouTube channel. So, and like I said, I'm gonna be doing some stealth camping videos in the Cuyahoga Valley and in some hot areas that I've been researching, and constantly working on the documentary. So yeah, stay tuned. We got a lot of good content coming up.
Awesome. I can't wait to see it. New England Dirt Roadie said the one who claims he was wearing a suit and charging through the thick underbrush. You mean the guy who admitted that it was a hoax? Yeah, I saw that one. He had recorded like on their snowmobiles and all that. It was him getting on down all fours. Yeah, I've seen that one. I wanted to let everybody know what I said when we started, that a lot is coming up for Planet 412. I have 6 different interviews I have to record this week, starting tomorrow with 2. I have a number of videos I have coming up as well. And we are going this weekend. Me and David are doing something really exciting together. I'm going to let everybody know. I'm going to drop it right here. Obviously, you won't know what it's going to look like or anything. We are actually going to finally go to my experience area, and we are going to check it out, record, see if we can, maybe find some other things around there. So at the very least, everybody, you're going to get to see the area of where I had my experience, and we're hopefully going to do a little magic for you guys when we drop the video. It'll be really awesome. It'll be dropped on my channel, and David will also be dropping a video on his as well. So I'm really excited to be doing that with you this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be great. We're also going to have the drone out, so we'll get like a lay of the land, and yeah, we'll get some great content.
Yes, Mary, that is where we are going this weekend. And then just to let everybody know, I've talked about this before. Thank you, Wembley. Thanks, Mary. I'm looking forward to it. We are also going to be going. I've kind of talked about it a little bit. David and I, along with some other people, are going to be going on location to different places coming up in the fall. And one of the places that we're going to be going is not far from where I live in Pennsylvania. I'm not going to specifically say, but all I'm going to say is we're going to be going to paranormal types of places, haunted locations, sometimes locations that maybe have well-known areas for cryptids, but David and I are definitely going to be getting the ghost factor going on the 412 and exposing the strange for you guys in the next year. It's really exciting what we're going to be doing, and I can't wait to start getting on location and recording.
Yeah, it's the ghost thing's going to be a little new for me, but the interesting thing is I have a ghost in my house that I've recorded with a trail cam. So
really,
maybe the next time I come on, I'll give you the photos and we can look at
oh
it.
my God, yeah, I didn't know that. Would you tell us a little bit about what's going on?
So basically, you know how I use my trail cam in time lapse mode. So we had it was not this New Year's Eve, but the New Year's Eve before, we had two couples over celebrating, and I said, hey, it'd be cool if we, you know, I had this candelabra, and let's go down in the basement. So our house was built in 1894. It's an old house. The basement is, you know, it's all brick, even the floor. So I said, let's go down there and do an EVP recording. And because one of my friends, he's sensitive to stuff, and he said that he had seen something in my office, and at first I thought I was pulling my leg, but he wasn't. So I said, you know, I'll run the trail cam like pointing away from us, just towards the wall. We'll do this EVP recording, and so, you know, I was asking questions, and I think I got something on the EVP recording too, but I was asking questions, you know, just general questions and stuff. And then, so I had the trail cam set up to take 5 photos and then 60 seconds of video. So there's this one sequence where, okay, you just see a frame of the wall. Then the second frame is this white kind of like cloud, but it has really sharp edges on it, and it's almost in a form, and it moves through each frame and gets bigger, like it's coming right towards me, because I was sitting right, the trail camera was right behind me. And then the last frame, it's like full frame, and then when the video kicks in, you can just see it glide and move past the video frame. It's really kind of weird. So I'm gonna get you that. So
I love it, man.
But so that's really been my only, you know, venture into the ghost world. So I'm looking forward to learning some new stuff.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad we're going to be doing it together because it will be new for me as well. Obviously, I've, you know, focused more on, you know, aliens and the majority on cryptids and things, but I am 100% committed to starting this new venture of us, you know, getting out on locations and multiple locations. So I'm super stoked about doing that with you.
Me too.
Well, everybody, it has been a great night. I want to thank Christopher Garitano, who took off for him being on. David, a regular here on the 412. Thank you so much for coming on. It's always a blast having you.
Thanks a lot, Matt, and thanks to your awesome fans for coming on with us.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Thank you, everybody. We love you. We will see you again very soon. And David, I will see you in a minute if you'll hang out in the back.
Sure.
All right. All right, everybody. I just want to again thank everybody for coming on Planet 412 as always. And a lot coming up here, guys, in the next few weeks. It's going to be really exciting. Like I said, 6 interviews this week, people from around the world. So you're going to be getting different accents and people having crazy experiences from all over. We have someone from Greece, someone from Scotland. We have another guy in Ireland and England. And then, of course, everybody around America. So love everybody, excuse me, and we will see you next time. And anybody wants to, real quick before I check out, I'm glad I remembered, if you have any experiences that you want to get on here with me on Planet 412, the email is planet412@gmail.com. Just spell that out. planetfortwelve@gmail.com. And I will personally respond to you guys. You can find me on Facebook and hit me up on Messenger as well. And we will see you guys later. Again, thanks, guys. I appreciate you coming. See you later, everybody.